I thought today would be a good day to give a review of my half VW engine and progress on the Ultra Cub. So I had a big oil leak. Been what, 2 weeks ago now? So I've been working on the engine. Just wanted to go through things. You can see here I've got all of my parts and pieces kind of lined up. So I'm attempting at this point to get all this put together. Shouldn't be too hard. Made some good progress last night. So went ahead and put in new pistons. I wasn't sure if the previous pistons were solid. So I reached out to Scott Casler. Thank you, Scott, if you see this video. He had some pistons. The Nickel cylinders themselves were in great shape. Those things are, practically bulletproof from a engine perspective. You can still see the score lines on it, the honing marks. So I just went ahead and got new pistons, just to make sure that that's all good to go. And the old pistons were very ugly. I mean, well, actually, the right side here. The right side was in really good shape, actually. Running a little bit rich. But over on this side, I had a tremendous amount of carbonization buildup. It was pretty obvious that I had an oil leak of some sort, which, after doing some research and talking with some VW gurus that I know in the area, they thought that was probably coming from the valve guides. So with that in mind, I went through the procedure to put in new valve guides. So here you can see, of course, I've already got these set up. Got the valves installed with the new valve guides. And cleaned up the inside of the heads, so they're in good shape. When I'm taking the engine apart, one of the things that I do is I label one side of the table left. The other side of the table, I put an R over there. I've got an L over here, just so I can keep track of things. It makes life a little bit easier. So putting this back together really won't be too much of a problem. I expect good things from that. Again, here's right spark plug. Pretty good shape. Not too much carbon buildup there. The left spark plug, and I did take a little bit of wire brush to this, so the spark plug itself is looking pretty good, but as I said, I had a lot of carbon buildup inside that. Yeah, so there's that. Let me take you around and show you really quick. Of course, this is my hanger. It's kind of a work in progress. We've got all the parts here for a full VW that's currently being set up for another project airplane we have. Wanted to show this really quick because I am very pleased with how this worked out. I put this board together with these two little plugs on it, and this is for holding the valves while I pulled the springs off so I can get the valves done. And as part of that procedure, what I did, and I don't claim credit for any of this, I mean there's a lot of creative people out there, but I took this piece of 2-inch pipe and I cut a notch out of it, and that allows me to get into the retaining clips for the valves. And I would set the head on here, put this up on here, and that would allow me to compress the spring. Then I had a magnet, and I reached in there with the magnet. I could pull out the retaining clips, and the spring was off. That is so much simpler compared to trying to use one of these, valve compression tools. I used this previously. What a pain! Holy cow! This thing, and there's just not enough room for those grippers to get in there and grab things. So it was worth a shot. It was a learning experience. And again, I don't claim credit for this. There's a lot of smart people and creative people out on YouTube who put that stuff together. So this rig was amazing. I mean, I was able to do the work one-handed and have one hand free. So that worked out extremely well. So next steps in putting my engine back together. So today I'll be working on putting the heads back on, get everything all torqued down, get some more oil back in the case. Let's see, some of the things that I've worked on. So Scott Casler, when I talked to him, So this arrangement right here, now this is an older engine. He thinks it's one of the early engines that he put together. So this block right here originally just had a small weep hole in it, and he said, you know what, just there, then there's a circle this size in there. So he said, just cut out that circle, just open that up all the way. Underneath here, you got to have that plate. It's one of the original VW plates for the generator mount. Has the louvers in there to catch the oil and splash it and drip it back in. This skinny plate right here is where the breather was, and it has a little, I think it's probably about a 3/8 or maybe a ½ inch hole, 3/8 probably. And then he's got a spring steel on top for a reed, and that of course lets the crankcase breathe. This is a new one that I got from him. He now has 2 holes in there with 2 reeds, and that'll increase the amount of airflow through the engine when the engine is doing, both pistons are down, right, for an intake stroke. He recommends increasing this to ½ inch. I might just go ahead and buy a new cap instead of trying to cut this and weld it, because it takes me a while. I don't know how to weld, so gotta find a buddy who can help me out with that. This is my oil catch can. A buddy of mine had one of these laying around, and this is the way to do it. Put a little drain cock on the bottom, so that's really good. Was flying about a month ago, and I was on my way back to the airfield, and all of a sudden I got an increased vibration on the engine, which of course made me really nervous. And this was a steel mount that cracked right back over here close to the carburetor. Might be hard to see that with the light and everything, but anyway, so that was exciting. So I fabbed a new one out of some 6061 aluminum. I'll probably have to change that out. The aluminum obviously is going to wear probably more quickly than the steel, but for now I've got that in good shape. Yeah, all in all. And then of course I had this real big oil leak that you can see has made my windscreen, ugh, I gotta wash the plane, clean this all up. Pretty certain that came from a cracked line on one of these guys, and it was spraying up here on the left side of the airplane. And what I had done to cause that is that right down under here is where we've got the pressure relief valve. There's a pressure control valve on a full case that would be back here on the back side if you had a full case, but since we just have a cut case, you just got the pressure relief valve right here. There's a spring and a cap that goes up through this galley right here. And the way it works is that when the engine's cold and the oil is thicker, this will plug this up and prevent oil from coming up here through the oil cooler. So it allows the engine oil to come up to temperature. As the engine warms up and the oil becomes thinner, it has a little more ability to push that down, and then it eventually allows then the oil to route through to the cooler as the engine warms up. What I had done is I had installed a high pressure spring, and I'll have to dig that out and show it to you here in a sec. But that was a longer spring, and it had a different kind of cap that would allow more pressure through the case. And it's really intended for older engines that getting a little worn out and they need more pressure. And so that longer spring put more compression in here, right? Created more pressure. And then that forced, I was getting 80 psi when I should be normally seeing about 40. I just saw one manual that said 70 max, so I was really up there redlining that, and eventually just blew out the line and squirted oil all over the place. So gone back to the factory standard. Of course you can see I'm poking around on my engine here because this paint job is flaking off. I understand that the magnesium alloy, it just kind of breathes. You can get oil weeping and stuff, but it doesn't hold paint at all. So we got a lot of folks with painted cases, and from what I understand, everybody's case peels after a while. So sad, makes your engine look really nice, but bare metal is probably the way to go, and it dissipates heat better. So nonetheless, that's the story with my half VW engine. So gonna get her put back together, do a test run, see if I can get some video on that, and we'll take it from there. So it's a great day here in Wisconsin. A little windy. We've got a fly-in this afternoon with chapter, I think, 89. So this is Capitol Airport in Wisconsin. So we'll see if we can hook up with them this evening if I get my plane cleaned up in time. And I'll add some extra video here at the end of the extra work I'm doing. Alright, I wanted to show really quick this high pressure fitting for the pressure control valve. So this is it right here. You can see it's got that notch in it and a long spring. I bought this as a kit. This one is for replacing the pressure control valve. So with the cut case, we'll not use that. So I'm going to set that aside up here. And you can see this spring is that, the normal spring is about this long. So we've got about an inch of extra spring. And the normal pressure control valve is more like this one. This one is not very rounded at the top. Hasn't got much of a beveled edge. So I'd be hesitant to put that in there. So just leave well enough alone. And in the kit you get a couple of the replacement rings there. And the kit I bought separately. I want to call this out. So this is the normal VW plug for the pressure control valve. And these work just great, except that slot it's a pain to mess with. So I bought a couple of these, so I've got a spare. And let me tell you, you get your Allen key, put that in there, and you mount that, and I tell you, it's a breeze. It is so much easier to mess with. So I highly recommend that for any of you that are doing your VW engines on your airplanes. This is it's a nice thing to have. Makes working on that super simple. You don't have to do much with it. But I did want to call that out. So this one again, if you come across this and you're wondering, this is going to create higher pressure in your galleys, right, to force more oil through there for lubrication. It's intended for older engines, maybe for higher performance engines. But for us in our half VWs, we want to keep that oil pressure down around 40. So by and large, shouldn't have to use that. So my experience hopefully is your gain on that. All right, on to more stuff. So I finished putting the engine back together. Turned out pretty well, actually. Back to the way it should be normally. Changes I made. So these exhausts were on opposite sides and they poked out at about a 30-degree angle. So after swapping them around and having them straight down, I think that's the way these were originally intended. But the previous owner made a decision to put them on so they're sticking out. So I like it this way. No problems with the rebuild. Everything went together just exactly as advertised. Got everything torqued down to the right specs. It's a half EW engine. No great shakes from that standpoint. Now, of course, it's raining, and we're projected to get rain through the afternoon, so I won't be able to do a test run today. So, kind of gloomy and blech. But nonetheless, I will pick up some more video tomorrow when I do the test run. I am noticing some, it's easier to pull the prop through, so compression-wise, I don't know what the difference might be from that standpoint. So I might be able to hand prop this. I've never been able to hand prop it from the back. I would stand in this position right over here. You see guys on their videos and they're hand propping this way. Yeah, so never tried with this engine, but I might be able to. We'll see. Yeah. Everything's tight. Everything's new. So there you have it. We'll give it a shot again tomorrow to run the engine. All right, I just started her up. She started great, but I've got that massive oil leak and I found out the problem. Right up in here on that oil cooler line, I blew out one of the oil cooler lines. So I'm going to have to strip that all off and replace the oil cooler. So that is where the problem came from. So at least it's good to finally identify that. So, more work to do. There you have it. But good news is, she started smoothly. The top end on this engine is going to be in great shape. My friend James, who was standing over on the left side of the airplane, just got sprayed with oil. I'm sorry, James. Builds character, right?
Yeah. Just trying to protect my new air venture shirt.
So I only ran it for about, what, 10 seconds, I guess. Just once it started, because I was actually wanted to start it again, get that on video. But it's a good thing I stopped it because, man, it just blasted a lot of oil out of there. So there you go. Smoking gun, the murderer, all that good stuff has been totally identified. Yeah, let me zoom in on that. Let's see. I can get in there. Yeah, you can see it there. So this guy, right up underneath there, right there, there it is. Looks like the second loop has a hole in it. So, looks like this has been epoxied on there too, so that'll be a little bit of a project. But, there we have it. Not quite mission ready. Oh well. But, it is good news. I'll follow up with more on this later.